Hello, my name is Brant. Today, again, is the 6th day of August 2020. And my short video here is it's called Mind Controlled. And I have a little short media presentation, and then I'll go into more of it.
And then finally, about noon, the soldiers were dismissed into discussion groups of about 10 or 12 each, first monitored by the Chinese and then self-monitored, during which each man was required to take part in a discussion of the content of the morning's lecture in his own words. Now, he didn't have to agree with it, he just had to recapitulate it. And there wasn't any penalty for failing to do this. They didn't pour water in your nose or pound on various parts of your anatomy with rubber hoses. They just didn't let anybody in your group go to chow until everybody in your group took part. And this, too, shifted the blame, you see, from the communists, ultimately, to the other 10 GIs in your discussion group. And it was they who said, look, buddy, start taking part in this discussion. We want to eat. Just like the executions in China are never done by the Chinese authorities, they're done by all the citizens in the village, by popular demand, in public trials, by acclaim. And this is a generalization of guilt, which again offends me as a psychiatrist. They are using my stuff and they are doing it immorally.
Okay. This is G. Edward Griffith's deal. He actually had a gentleman talk about mind control. And this is by a gentleman named Major William E. Meyer. And what I'm gathering simply is this is a audio portion he speaks about. And he's going back in time during the Korean conflict that's taking place with the United States and then Korea, but the Chinese were actively involved, and it actually put soldiers in camps, and this is what they were doing in those camps. And so they were cleverly using a way to divide our own soldiers during the war. But the sad part simply is that that's in military, but we're all been mind controlled almost since birth. Are you aware of that we have all been mind controlled? That somehow, for example, what took place September 11th, 2001, that somehow some big jets that flew into the buildings took down the World Trade Center. You really believe that? You believe that somehow those planes came down, those towers came down because a plane ran into it? And history proves that even in the past, when a B-25 Mitchell, I think it was, during the Second World War, and happened to fly into the tallest building then in New York City was the Empire State Building, and it hit it, and it didn't go down. And yet, we lost almost all our freedoms at that point because of that. Are you aware of that? It seems so long ago, doesn't it? It's been almost, next year at the same time, it'll be 20 years. 20 years ago that happened. And still people are brainwashed in thinking that those buildings came down because of those airplanes. Really. This really bugs me a lot that people never ever question anything. Don't even question anything. And I'm not talking about the official story about what took place at 9/11. Just an example. No one questions the story your pastor tells you. Are you aware that Jesus spoke against priests in his daytime? Are you aware that Jesus spoke out against lawyers? He also spoke out against money changers, which are your bankers. Are you aware of that? Or are you just thinking it's some kind of story? Well, it's probably a story, yes, but it basically tells you your major obstacles in this world are lawyers, bankers, and preachers. And how they fool you because they rob you. Lawyers make criminals of you. Bankers create money out of nothing. And preachers tell you you're going to heaven because you believe in something, just because they tell you so. I trusted the preachers far more than anybody else in my background. You see, I was under what I call some type of trauma when preachers were preached at a 4-year-old boy going to church was in danger of going to hell if he didn't ask Jesus to be in his heart. You see, I believe that. I knew lawyers were crooked when I was 18 years old, 19 years old, when I was in college. When I went to the law school at University of South Carolina in Columbia and visited it and realized, nope, I don't think I want to be a lawyer. Part of that was simply is what I watched television and watching lawyers like, who was it? Perry Mason and these other people that basically these guys were good guys, type of thing, and you just accepted that stuff while it was on television. It's a story. And how most of you are still under mind control. One of the greatest things that's happened, or one of the saddest things I should say, has happened in this year. And how the government and people, this is all critical to understand psychologically. Most people don't have the guts to stand against the crowd. That's why Hitler came to power, folks. There are a few people who actually stood against him. We'll someday talk about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who stood against him. Most people are not aware of that story, but it needs to be told. And how others have tried to help others to, but the whole thing is going on. You do realize it simply is that your immune system is able to fight off what's going on. The Creator created you to be able to do that. As long as you ate good foods and got rest and you kept your immune system up to par, that this would be no threat to your body. You do realize that germs don't pass down. I mean, they don't pass diseases, bacteria. That Pasteur came along in France and invented some cockeyed stuff that basically that said that germs were real and they would cause issues with you. You know, your immune system is when you're sick, you have a fever. Your fever is actually based upon, very clearly, is fighting off the toxics in you. That's what's going on. Your body's toxic, and so it needs to eliminate those toxics. And that's how it deals with it, the fever. You get chills and all these things, you get upset stomach, whatever. That is based upon simply getting rid of the toxins out of your body. If your body didn't do that, you wouldn't be alive. So, when you walk in a store, and I can remember this before all this stuff started, this craziness, wearing a mask. Wearing a mask as though it's going to protect you. When in reality, you need oxygen to breathe. When you put a mask over your face, you're breathing carbon dioxide. It's being exhaled from your mouth or nose. Do you know the Creator created the grass and the trees to take in carbon dioxide and to produce oxygen for you? Are you aware of that? All that's going on is nonsense, what's going on around us today about this CV-19 crap. It's about those who rule the world, who have fooled many, many, many people in order to, quote unquote, have jobs to pay money. They will tell their own people, that is their race, humans, a lie because they needed to eat or they didn't have conviction. So what's transpired these days is that many businesses are no longer around. People have lost their jobs. And if you continue to partake of it, it's going to probably cause more people to lose their jobs. More people stay at home now. I do believe that's a positive thing. If you are searching truth, you can spend hours upon hours searching for truth now that you would never have had time to do until now. And you need to spend time looking for the truth, folks. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. You're given truth over to YouTube or other video systems or whatever shared. And it's up to you to really actually, are you going to continue to go along with the crowd? Because usually those that go along with the crowd are the ones that eventually destroy the country. They do. The majority always has caused issues with governments. I'm not saying governments are good. And so you have to ask yourself questions. Why is it popular now to wear masks? I thought criminals wore masks. Are you a criminal? Think about it. Do you know that they, quote unquote, back in the days of the cowboys and Indians and the robbers, the robbed stagecoaches, they wore masks. They didn't want people to know who they were. They covered their faces. Are you covering your faces so you don't want people to know who you are? Is it a clever way for you to hide yourself and not be authentic? I believe it is. I believe people are scared of themselves. It's all psychological. That's why I introduced this particular audio part is to introduce you simply is that was 70 years ago, 70, 75 years ago, maybe a little longer, how mind control was done. But that was mind control was done even with the pomp and what took place with Hitler. I'm not saying other forces weren't involved. I do know that other forces were involved in bringing Hitler to power. They were big business here in America and bankers that wanted us to go to war so that they could make money off the war, killing of other people. killing of other people that you don't even know. Because the government claims that they're the enemy. When in reality, your own government is the enemy. They lie to you. They deceive you. But you go along with it. Because you don't have a backbone. You don't have any, you don't stand for anything. You just go along with everything that goes. If someone wants to rape my wife, that's okay. Or rape my girlfriend or whatever type of thing, or do damage to someone, my child. And this is part of groupthink. This is part of why there's a struggle that there's very few individuals who speak out, because it takes courage to speak out about things like this. No, I'm not a part of the, I'm not looking, I'm not going to manifest what I don't want to see here, okay? But I am speaking in a way that simply is that you are mind control. That television at home is your device that fools you and you believe it. They can create all kinds of stories. The situation in Lebanon. What if that supposedly bomb that blasted, what if it was blasted 2 or 3 years ago? Do you know that, if that's true or not? Do you know if it's truly actually took place? They can tape that and then show it as being real. I've done that before. People get confused when you look at the flags and you suddenly say, that's not the flag of Sudan, that's the flag of Libya, or something of that nature. But most people don't even know that. Just basic things of that nature. You remember the Arab Spring? All that was supposed to bring about freedom in the Arab world, when reality simply is far worse now than it was before. You see? But you don't worry, you don't sense that your own fellow man is being destroyed right before you. You don't have a conscience. You don't. You don't have a conscience. A lot of this is happening simply is to do with astrology. We know that. The few of us know that. We know that Jupiter and Saturn are basically in conjunction. And it's having enormous effect upon our bodies, our sleep patterns, all those type of things, and causing us to be restless, irritable, depressed. Yet, we don't consider that being real. It's your choice. You have the freedom to choose these things. You have the free will to believe or not, or choose not, or to choose, whatever. But you do know that simply history predicts, and always has predicted, that those who always support, it's always the majority. It's not the minority. It's never the minority that causes problems. It's usually the majority who go along because they want to get along. And they continue to do that over and over again. They'll go to war. They'll do whatever it is. They'll put a dictator in power, some madman, and yet it goes on. I grew up in a different days in some ways. I lived in the country part of my life, most of my life actually, and I don't recall my neighbors being very hostile to me. There was a couple of times. And yet today, people are willing to go along and believe in authority so much that they would call the police to, if you didn't wear a mask, it caused the police to come and arrest you. Wow. Fear is a big thing, isn't it? And those who rule this world know how to use fear against you. And you never learn, do you? It just keeps going on. That's why you keep reincarnating here too. You never learn. You never, ever will learn. So it'll happen again and happen again. And you never see it. You don't want to be responsible. You don't want to be accountable. You simply go along with what's going on because it's the easiest thing to do. It's a sad, sad day. Anyway, I wish you a good night. Hope that others will see this. Truly, we miss those of us who see. We need to manifest what we want and not what we don't want on the collective and also individually. I think this is key for all of us to understand that. Part of the reason why this video is being done simply is I know that pretty much none of you are going to do anything about it, but I also know simply as I'm responsible to share what I know. I know a lot more than this, folks. I know a whole lot more, and doesn't mean I'm, have an ego or whatever. I'm just trying to share out of the goodness of my heart to make you aware of that. So I appreciate your time. You have a good evening, and you take care.